So the focus, you're not going to buy a SIEM product which no one else uses, and you're not going to get support, or you're not going to get the staff to be able to run it, or you're not going to get the plugins for it for your development team to use. So if you've bought the greatest SIEM package and you just can't recruit, it'll cost you so much to recruit people in that area, then that's going to be a costly investment. So you're typically looking for something that there is a skill. The skills are out there. They're in the local economy. You can make sure you can get them and you can keep them. And you're not just training someone up to go to work somewhere else. So the choice of what you would do with the SIEM is typically a historical one. It's what you've had in the past. So you've maybe had some sort of a Cisco tool, or you're not going to rip out your whole network and start again. All the devices you have are what you're comfortable with, and you need to make sure that you're integrating your solution around that. So it's partly historical, and it's partly where you want to be in the future. So we see a lot of companies bumping along and then trying to understand where is it they want to be in the future, what do I want my SIEM architecture to look like, and what do I want my network infrastructure. What's it going to look like in 10 years' time? Let's work towards that. So many companies have maybe 5 or 6 SIEM tools that they're using, and they're saying, this is crazy. Why don't we reduce it down to 2 or 3 with the hope that we'll get it down to 2 in the future? We see very few companies picking one SIEM on their own, because once you're locked in to a SIEM package, that's it. You're a hostage to fortune. You can charge whatever they want. Splunk charges per data. So you might think it works, and then you say, right, let's turn on a whole lot more data, and then your bill will increase massively. And many people we hear in the industry say that exactly. It looked like a great investment, and then we turned everything on, and then we're limited. So it's a difficult solution for that, but it's likely that you're going to come across one of these contenders there. So this is the Gartner. The Gartner is really important in industry. It can kill your product, or you will be successful on where you come in here. So Gartner will come along and assess your product. It will score your product, and then it will draw this graph here. So this is how visionary you are. This is how your completeness of your vision. This is companies here have a vision, have a strength, and want to succeed. So in something like managed security services, Dell SecureWorks is right up there. They have a very strong credibility in the market space. They will push forward, and they have an edge on others. But you can have a great vision, and you have a 2-man company, and you're only in a certain region of the world. So along with your vision, then there's the ability to execute your vision. So the only place to be in the Gartner quadrant is really here. Okay, your business decisions will be made on these products, possibly. If you go for here, then you're kind of struggling a little bit, because are they going to succeed? Are you backing the right horses? They don't have the vision, and they don't have the ability to succeed. Like Nessus is kind of in here. Nessus is really good for vulnerability analysis, but can it really push forward in getting its logs? It's focused on individual machines and so on. Can it really have some traction? So with inside here, we can see the main contenders. So right up there is IBM, ArcSight, and McAfee are the top ones, and Splunk is sitting there. Logarithm is also a major contender into it. So these are likely to be the ones that you're going to come across in industry. We deal a lot with the RSA product there, and hopefully we'll get it working in the lab for you. But we have a strategic partnership with RSA just now to input their security analytics tool. They did a package called NetWitness, which was amazing. You could take a packet log and it would create all the artifacts for you. So we hope to get the RSA product running in our clouds. If you don't do it in the teaching, then make sure you consider it as part of your dissertation. If you're looking at different contenders, the RSA product. RSA do a more customized product for companies. RSA will run a SOC for a company and will use all their tools within there. These ones are more for companies who are building their own SOC and bringing together lots of tools and so on, and then white labeling it for them. Splunk especially is very good for plugins and adding, and for me to take Splunk and then promote it as my product with some sort of integration. Okay, so down here, they're really struggling a little bit. Over here, they've maybe got good market traction, but they're not quite showing the leadership that we would really expect from someone who's really going to take it forward. Okay, but the big guys are IBM and HP. So they're all looking to increase their market share. They see that SIEM is a core part of their business. IBM and HP are them. So at present, we're integrating ArcSight, and we're looking to get it in about summertime to be running courses next year. But ArcSight is a very prestige area to be skilled in, and there is a big skills gap in that area. If you look at it, law enforcement, the analytics engine in this is just phenomenal. So you'll ask people in industry and they will say that ArcSight is great for analytics, but Splunk is great for gathering data. So they've all got their own little strengths and weaknesses in them. So this is the IBM product. Was it? QRadar, yeah. Have you used that one before? No. Yeah. So we will get round to getting the QRadar into our cloud, hopefully sometime soon. But our main focus is getting ArcSight integrated. To give you an idea, law enforcement are looking to use ArcSight in investigations. So this is the QRadar one, the IBM one. Fairly standard in terms of what you actually see. NetFlow was probably one of the best things that Cisco ever implemented on their devices. They'd be really struggling in the market if they hadn't implemented NetFlow. But very few companies use the Cisco SIEM or the Cisco Data Analytics. For some reason, it just hasn't got any sort of traction. Maybe because they didn't integrate everybody's devices, possibly. They've concentrated on their own integration, and that really isn't very good if you're buying F5 load balancers and so on. You have a hybrid network. So this is what it looks like, fairly standard. You can see traces and stuff like that, and you can see your alerts, and you've got lots of things to click on. And this is what an analyst would see, but obviously you wouldn't show this on your main dashboard, possibly. You'd probably just show one graph up on the screen that maybe showed you your network throughput. And the ones I've seen, they will have the main traffic throughput, and then you'll actually be able to look up and see if there's any spikes. So you can see straight away when you're attacked by a denial of service. Okay, so this is the QRadar one there. And if you're interested, this is how you set up IP flow on your Cisco device. You define your ingress filter for it. And what you get is a whole lot of data about the general flows of the network. So you can see in this case, we're seeing lots of things to do with all the different protocols and all the different IP addresses involved. So it's this data that was then mined that comes back into your... So it just seems so rubbish, doesn't it? It's all text and it's almost like console windows and stuff like that. But it works, and you couldn't define a standard for really getting all this to work because industry wouldn't agree, and you just can't change. Okay, so you typically have a NetFlow collection agent sitting on the network, and it listens on a certain UDP port again, and all that really happens is that the Cisco devices are feeding information to your agent. Make sure you have 2 of these, because obviously if one fails, then you're kind of stuffed. So you've got a backup one there too, and you're sending it to there too. And then what will happen is it just sits there for a while, and then it'll actually get sent to your main SIEM, and we can actually delete it after some time. Okay, so that's the way it's set up. And then this is our logarithm stuff. So logarithm say that they do everything. So they'll take analytics. I apologize for the. It's difficult to see that, but there's your server infrastructure. There's your point of sales. There's your databases. There are access control logs. There's your security analytics, and so on. So they will take from all these different places, and then they will create reports for each of these stakeholders. So this is corporate management. So corporate management are seeing nice little reports about the usage of the network and any sales that we're gathering. So our auditors, there's our auditor. Our auditors are happy because we're creating reports for our auditors that can be seen. So every month we might create a report that will give us an overall sort of understanding of it, and we can feed that. That's our IT, that's our security staff are getting reports there too, and then that's our IT operations. So you can see the wonderfulness of this is that this is our big data infrastructure for the company. This is the easiest sell ever. I want to spend 100k, and what I want to do is to give you all a report, all nice, and you have a dashboard. When you log in the morning, you'll see exactly how many security alerts there's been, how many device failures, and we can customize for each different person on the whole of the network. Okay, so that's our logarithm in there from that. And there's a kind of dashboard that we get. It means something to somebody. That might not mean much to you, but pie charts are really good. I tell you, you'll get more promotion from doing a nice pie chart than you probably will in implementing Cisco rules. Reporting on things is probably one thing that will get you repeat business much more than being a great technical person. If you report well and you chart well and you show trends and things like that, then it can really do you a great deal. So that this means something to somebody. There's something there that when you look at it, you see exactly what the problem is or what's actually happening. And then we come to the new kid in the block, which is Splunk. And Splunk have really turned the industry up on its, completely turned around things. So their idea is that why don't we just log everything? Why do we forget that there's hosts and networks and lots of different things? Why don't we just take it all, and who cares what format it's in and who the vendor is, and we'll just stick it into a big data source, and then we'll mine from there. And just like Google, so why is it Google succeeded and Yahoo didn't? So both of them at the time in search engines had an equal share of the market, and Google succeeded and Yahoo crashed. They're just laying off people just now. And what happened was that Yahoo became more and more verbose in terms of the user interface, and Google just ended up with a single text box that you just put in your entry. So the logic at the time was put more on it, put more links and stuff like that. The Google approach is that you type in. Your fingers are the best way to actually search for things, and it's a much more natural way. So Splunk have tried to really integrate that as much as they can. So here are some of the dashboards that we create, and we can have lovely little charts that are really showing anything. You pre-prep them. You've got all your dashboards ready. So for an incident happens, you pull up a dashboard that will very quickly. So you create your own toolkit. You create for your workstation. This is what you want to see in a certain time. So then the company can create their own analytics. They can create their own charts, and especially we can create charts which are much more friendly to the business. So the business just wants to see roughly where things are going and what the general trends actually are. So the package we're looking at just now is HP ArcSight, and a real winner in the market. I mean, a real forward-looking package which is looking very much at analytics and big data infrastructures. So they have all that log management thing, and they have a whole lot of connectors that have to be customized for all your different systems. So this is the point that we are just now. We're looking at our connectors and how we need to build our connectors for our types of applications. And then it has lots of different plugins for the different. So we see the main contenders there. There's PCI, there's Sarbanes-Oxley's, there's HIPAA, and there's the JSOC again, IT government, and FISMA. Okay, so those are the ones that are really the ones that you would buy the reports for, and all the connectors. And out the box, we can actually connect and make sure that we're compliant. Okay, so there's an ArcSight integration there. They all do the same sort of thing with a chart and some sort of logging in there, and maybe some sort of basic analytics that we can actually see. So it's quite difficult to make sure that you get all the information you need on your single dashboard. Okay, so with Splunk, what we do is that we take our existing logs. So there's an example of logs that we get from our Apache system. So tell me what information I see in there. Tell me what I can mine from there. The web browser.
And what is the
Time.
operating system?
Session ID. There's the browser. There's the
page ID.
crypto use. Yeah, the IP address.
Page ID.
The page ID. Yeah, well done. And this part here.
Yeah, what kind of method
Yeah.
they're using.
Okay. So there's a post. That's somebody clicking on a button and putting some parameters in, and the get is when somebody accesses a page.
And the response code.
And the response code, well done. Yeah, that's excellent. The response code. Is oh, there's the response code in there. So there are a whole lot of things, and then when we look at our IIS logs, this is the kind of things that we see. So they're all kind of the same when they look at it. So I'll show you an example from my site. So we're going to try and get you these logs, but we're going to have to anonymize the IP addresses within them. So we're going to sanitize the logs that we gather from, so that we can actually analyze. Okay, so just let's see where we are. Okay, so I just run a Microsoft. Oh, it's a bit difficult to see that, isn't it? Let's see if we can make it a bit bigger. It's a bit better. Let's try and find. So it's in logs. So I run an IIS server, and the IIS server will give me a whole lot of logs. So just show you one. Okay, so this is what you get within the log, and obviously what you pick off is the date, the IP address, the port that's been used, what the content actually is, the HTTP method that was used, the information that's coming from the browser that you can't trust mainly, but it will certainly give you an idea whether it's a Windows machine, Windows 6.1, what does that mean?
Vista.
It could be Vista. I think it might even be Windows 7 or Windows 10, sorry. You can see your Mac. There's the Mac stuff coming in there. So when I look at the logs, I see a lot more Mac stuff coming in. Mac sales are increasing and Windows sales are decreasing. So you'll see a lot more Mac stuff in your log. And then at the very end, you're seeing your response code. So a really important code is 404. 404 means somebody, I've either mucked up and left a page off, or somebody's trying to fish for it. So there we go, we got one there, and its favourite icon. I just haven't put an icon actually on my web page. But if you look at it, so a standard thing, WP admin, there it's there. So people go and fish the internet for WordPress sites, because WordPress sites are like shooting fish in a barrel, basically. So it has a well-known vulnerability, and also people use really weak passwords on the WordPress site as a default. So you actually see somebody's coming in looking for /WP admin, even though I'm not running a WordPress site from there. So the 404s are really important ones from there. That's another one in there. Just let's see if I can find another one. There's the icon one again. So a lot of what we have to do is to be able to look through the logs and to look for the codes. So 503s and so on, the ones, the severe ones will actually give, was it?
403,
Was it?
403, forbidden.
403?
403.
403. Oh, well done. It's really good. Log. So you can just imagine what that is trying to do. So we have the IP address of that. So thanks for that. That's exactly the types of things. Sometimes it's just people being silly, or a link that didn't actually exist that you've created. So hopefully I'll be able to pick off an IP address here. Oh, good. Okay. So this is I run a service that will lock someone out after a certain amount of times for a login for RDP, and also for the web forms. So if somebody puts in 4 logins for RDP onto the site, it locks their IP address out for a day. So I haven't set this up, I promise, and I don't want to offend any countries of the world, because even though what comes up here will say a certain country, it's not definite that it was that country that caused it. Yesterday it was Argentina, and today it is Korea. It's the Republic of Korea. Okay, so I don't want to offend anyone at all, but that somebody has been trying to log in with different usernames and passwords into the domain, and there's the IP address of that. But you'll see continue. You would just weep sometimes if you looked at logs. You would just weep about the amount of botnet activity, the amount of stealing of the whole site, the scraping of the site. Honestly, it would make you cry. It would make you interested, actually, because it's actually quite interesting to see what really goes on for them. So obviously you would typically run Wireshark to really see exactly what was happening, because you're not really seeing all the traffic, you're only seeing the logs. If you really want to see if you're under a denial of service, you run Wireshark here, and then you'll be able to see exactly what's happening underneath. So just let me show you the event viewer. So there's the event viewer, there's our security log, is typically where we'd look, and look, there is a whole lot of audit failures. And these, you'll see there's only 4 of them. Well, there's only 5 or 6. And the only reason for that is that I lock them out once they've done 6. If I hadn't locked them out, you would see it going on and on and on. Typically, a sustained attack will be about 3 or 4 hours for it. So I don't know if we can find one a bit older from there, because obviously we clear our log out. But here's one here. So this is all happen at 3:18, 3:18, 3:18, 3:18, 3:18. All of these events are actually a login attempt which actually fails. So in our Windows log, we'll actually be able to see the detail. So someone has tried to log in with administrator coming from this domain, and we will have a log of their IP address. The IP address is typically within a cloud somewhere or on a proxy server or in a country that they don't care that they're actually traced from there. But there's the address that's coming in. So you would obviously do some sort of reverse lookup to be able to trace, but there's no guarantee that you actually find it. So this is a sustained attack using something like Hydra or some of these types of tools onto it. So you can see it doesn't even find that address isn't even registered as a domain. Okay, so it's very difficult to trace, but it's often in the logs that you actually see the true scope of what's really happening on it there. Okay, so that gives us our logs that we see. And then we've also got other places that we look to. So inside our secure.log, we store our incorrect logins. So in secure.log, you'll see your password failures and so on. So obviously that's a place that we look to gather information from a Linux system, and inside our Windows system, we look inside the Windows logs inside security, and we'd examine that. So what we do with Splunk is that we install a forwarder agent onto the device or into the domain. The forwarding agent will then send it to Splunk to be able to gather. In Splunk, we then install a plugin which understands the format of the log and is able to parse it, okay? Because it's a flat file, and Splunk needs to understand that the second field means the HTTP code and so on. Okay, so this is the kind of thing that we get, and marketing people love this type of thing because it gives them analytics. So we'll analyze the Buttercup Games site, and I've set it up on a security site on port 8000, and you'll be able to analyze the analytics behind this. So on the face of it, this site looks as if it's a games site, and it is, and it has real games getting bought, but there are malicious intent underneath, and it's your task in the tutorial and also in the test that we're going to do. First test is to find out any bad stuff or any of the analytics from in there. Okay, so what we've set up, hopefully, and please say if there's anything else that you want, because really we want to really lead in terms of setting these things up. So you'll find on port 8000 that you've got a login for Splunk. If we'll give you individual logins, but I've sent you all your login here. So make sure that you can get logged into it. I'll just get logged in just now from there, and I've used a really secure password from there. Good, that's great. Let's try again. That's it. Okay, so this is the Buttercup Games site. So this site, it's simulated data over a few days or over some time, and it's really both the access log and also the Apache web log in them. So the great thing with Splunk is that it's already mined and it already knows what it's actually looking for. So if I just type in Buttercup Games, it very quickly finds the term that I'm looking for. So I can go for 404s, and already it's found lots of occurrences of 404 in there, if I'm interested in that, or if I know a certain thing that I'm looking for. There's all the things that relate to PDF. There's all the things that relate to error, and so on. So it's done the mining and it's in there, and we crawl the data. Either it's coming in real time from our devices, or we've aggregated it together into our infrastructure. So we're maybe dealing with masses of data here. So if we just have a look at the Buttercup games there, so we see it's a very much a Google type approach. I type it in and it's there. So you can see here, there's a timeline of all the different events. So we can zoom in and zoom out of the timeline. So we might say, oh, that's interesting there. Been a lot of activity there, or what happened there, and we can very quickly see where we actually are. So often what you have with data analytics is to find the first starting point. We did it with a SIEM. We found that starting point and we use that as a jump off. So what we do is we just go through. So here's the logs here, and it's highlighting all the different things that we've searched for in this case. And it's telling us here are some of the interesting, these are some of the fields that look related to it. Do you want to look at Buttercup games and also a certain host? Or do you want to look at other things like the date and so on? So we can look here, and we can obviously go through our timeline. We can obviously zoom out if we want from there. And we can zoom in on a certain time period for it there. But what we'd often use is this option here. So this option here is interesting because this is starting to mine through the data packets the events that we've actually seen. So let's say we're actually interested in who's been coming into our site, where have they been coming from. Marketing people love that because I've invested a whole lot in Google Ads, and is it true that those Google Ads are coming into our site? And who is it that's coming in? Who is the referrer? So in our information, the referrer is here. So you can see here are the referrers. There's the top referrers that will take us to that page there. And you can actually see that most of them, well, a lot of them, 6% are coming in from this link here. So we can actually understand where these are coming from. And then we can use that and we can actually chart them. And we can even look at rare values. So sometimes rare values are just as important because they're just little rogue things that don't quite fit in with the basic trend from in here. So here's little pinpoints. These are there's only one occurrence that actually came in through there, and it's only current there. So sometimes we're looking for an anomaly rather than something that's a certain pattern from in there. Okay, so we often build up our search from our text and then look to visualize it. So let me show you. So here are all the different hosts that caused that. That's not them. So this is the referring domain in this case. So let's take a look at say security. No words. So let's look for access. No, not finding that one. So we'll go back to our Buttercup games. And if we want a certain log that we're looking at, so in this case we're just going to focus on one of the logs, and then we can actually define the source of the log, and it will only give us from there. We can put a star in there if we want, but this is just one log that we're actually targeting from in there. So this is a better representation. This is a get. So the get is interesting because what we can actually do is to be able to look at the port number, the status code. Okay, so this is definitely an area that we want to look at. So 86% were 200s and 503s. What was the number you said before?
403.
403s. Well, there's no 403s, but there's 403.
Is forbidden or trying
Forbidden.
to access the wrong one.
Yeah. So just in these accesses, there's
404 is page not found.
404. Yeah. So we'll mine in for the 404s. So here is the 404s that were caused over time there, and these are all the accesses that happened there. And you can see what we've done is that it's very simple. The search, we can put in anything in there, but it's managed to mine each of these things. So then we're interested in 404s, and we want to see who's been hacking us, who's been doing the most type of stuff in there. So what we can actually do is to be able to look at the IP addresses in there, and there you go. So this guy here has been in 12 times with a 404 and accounts for 1 in 20 of our 404s related to that. So we can see very quickly how we can actually read that, and the rare values is quite good too. We can actually have a look to see who's just been given a 404. And with this we can very quickly find any problem pages, to find the ones that are maybe missing from our site, or the ones that are being hit upon, that somebody's tried to sort of try and fish for. So again, if we look at the IP addresses for all the 404s, there they are there. So there's that one address appearing in there. Okay, so we can target addresses, and we can also start to look at certain patterns. So Splunk looks for certain patterns. This part of the package is getting better, and it's looking at, but you can create your own patterns that you want. You can then also create your reports, your charts and stuff like that based on on what you actually gather from there. And then eventually you can create an end report from it. Okay, so you should be able to get access to this. This is for you to play with. It's real data. Well, it's simulated data, but it's a kind of representative site. Try and pick up some skills and to be able to analyze and to drill down into things. Okay, so there's the tutorial that you've got to do. So the other part is that, okay, that's great, but probably you're going to be involved in setting it up and making sure it's all working and so on. So in the lab today, what we want you to do is to be able to set up your own Splunk infrastructure and then do a red versus blue, but be nice to each other. So our architecture that we're creating, sorry about this. So we're building up our architecture, and it's your architecture, it's your network, you're responsible for it. But now you'll be exposed to all the other people's groups from here. So if you play nice just now and don't do anything to other networks just now, what we're going to try and do today, and this is the first time I've done it, so it may be a complete disaster, and we'll probably burn ourselves out as tutors trying to help you, but we'll try and get it set up for you. So the architecture that we're creating is this one here. Okay, so you should be well used to this up to now. So there's our Windows 2003. I know we use that all the time, but it kind of works for us. It's got all the services that we need from there. There's a Windows 2008 with Splunk Enterprise installed in it. Stick it at .8 and stick this at .7, and this is at .254. So you need to get that to work. There's also a Kali machine there that we don't actually use, but just in case it doesn't work, then this will be used for debugging these systems here. But where we'd like you to sit is over here, there, and then you'll be setting up this one to be able to detect, what we're detecting. I forget what we're detecting. This one will be set up for the Windows logs, the event logs, and also for snods. Okay, so what we're going to do is practice what we preached last week. Remember, we did all that things to do with detecting denial of service and all our snot rules, and they worked offline, and hopefully you've all done it with the -R option. but that's great, but you really need to prove that it works. So we'll be implementing snort here, and what we'll be doing is detecting you logging into FTP with an incorrect login. You remember what number that is? 530. So we want 530 on snort here. It'll probably not work, so please bear with us. 530, and also when you log into Telnet from here, then what should happen is that the Splunk forwarder sends to here, and you should see in your little window when somebody actually does that. Okay, if you manage to get that done in 2 hours, you're a genius. Well done. If you don't, then please bear with us. We'll get it set up for you. We have one running just now, but there's a Splunk forwarder that you'll have to download from the internet and get it installed and then forward that. But what should happen is that you should be able to do that, and then from another network, your friend will log in there, and you'll be able to identify. So don't tell them what you're doing, but they should be able to identify to you what you're doing at that specific time. So I've kind of crashed that a little bit. Okay, so does everybody understand that architecture? Everybody understands how you set up pfSense. We're not using one-to-one NAT, we're using port forwarding. Okay, port forwarding. This server is going to be exposed. So can you tell me the IP address that we'll use to be able to access the web server on that machine if we're using port forwarding? Yeah. Okay, so this is the address. When something comes in on port 80, then it gets forwarded to there. Okay, so try and differentiate the difference between one-to-one NAT when you want the whole machine online and port forwarding, which is this address but forwarded to there. The only time we'll ask you to open up the whole firewall is when you nmap from here to there. You open it up so that we can detect through snort the scanning, because if we don't open up enough ports, then snort won't trigger for an nmap. So only then do you open up the ports and then close them back again if you can. Okay, so that's the setup. There's a new password to learn, hopefully, for your Windows 2008 machine to learn. So I'll just quickly show you what it should look like, hopefully, in the end, if it's all working. From there. Oh, good. Sorry. Exit. Do I want to exit? Just let me put that back in from there. So if it all works, then when I log in through FTP with an incorrect details, Snort will add its little alert to alert.log, and the Splunk forwarder will pick that up, send it on to Splunk, and we'll see it as a little console, and then we'll be able to mine it in. I do have a video online, just in case it doesn't work, so it is online, and you can watch through it. Honestly, if you get this done in the 2 hours, then you're pretty much a genius, I think. Me and Charlie think that. So please try and help each other, because there's only two or three of us around. But we have set up the demo of it, here, and rather than doing it live, let's actually just do it here. So this is us running live on the system from there. And just let me find the 430 one. It's a bit of setting up. So this is us setting up the log here. You can see over here our snort is running in the background. Here, it's difficult to see it. But this is snort running on the Windows 2003 machine, actually with our rules. Running and filling up the alert.ids, and then after that, hopefully, once we get it all running and we set up our forwarder, if you're going to trip up somewhere, it's installing the forwarder, because it's a bit ropey, the one that we're going to use for Windows 2003. So you might have to reinstall a few times. So this is our Windows 2008 machine, more like the kind of corporate machine we'd see in an environment. We like it more than the latest Windows Server. So you should have a new instance in there. And then with inside there, once we get it all up and running, you should be able to sit on your console, and then you should be able to see the alerts coming in from Snort. So down below, you'll actually see the source of the log. So it's coming in from the alert file. It'll also give you the name of the host. The name of the host is called Napier. If we're looking for anything in the log, we look for Napier and what you should see. So there's a denial of service. attempt on the machine, and it should all work. Does anybody have any questions on what we've done? I appreciate we've done an awful lot from there, but hopefully it'll become much clearer when we get our kind of hands dirty on both the Splunk analysis and it's a great thing for your CV to put down that you've done in this area. Certainly ECS, companies like that are keen to get graduates with these type of skills, and it's really the skills of the future, and it's a really fun thing to do. Okay, thanks very much.